Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. To pick up where Ali left off, I would say our concern isn't necessarily that a program like this is going to die out, but to be able to think about how it is that we can accommodate it as it just gets bigger and stronger and bigger and stronger. I might not be the oldest person in the room, but I am probably older than a lot of you. And when we started this Muharram Majlis program many years ago, there weren't really as many people as you have seated in the room right now. The notion and idea of why this is something that's critical, not just for our own community endeavors, but to think about this as a necessary experience and institution that impacts well beyond what it is that we do here in this space, is something that within these days you really need to reflect upon. My brother Sheikh Fawaz Jafar and I, who I know he would want to be sitting here so badly with you all. But because he is so committed to that call that our sister so beautifully articulated in her poem, he's willing to leave those that he loves so much so that he can ensure others who don't have access to things like this are able to have access to it as well. He and I were in Houston some months ago speaking at an Ahl Bayt Society meeting. It was interesting to me because I had spoken in that same space some years ago before COVID, but to their Muslim Student Association. And I was sitting, engaging, interacting, lecturing, and the recognition was something that was so deeply present that a lot of these students felt as if they were doing something wrong just because they were choosing to practice, to worship the way that they were. And they were asking me questions like, do you think it's a sign of lacking unity if we just hosted our own Jummah prayer? Or we endeavor to host on a Thursday night a Dua Kumail gathering? Do you think it's okay if we said we wanted to host just one majlis in Muharram? I said, my brothers and sisters, you don't need anybody's permission to be who you are. And anybody who's telling you that you can only be who you are or be accepted by them when you become that which you are not, that's the last person you need to talk to in order to know how it is you need to move forward. But what became very obvious to me in that moment was that those students, they didn't have somebody like Sheikh Fawaz telling them, encouraging them, giving them a sense of guidance on how to build something. And so when he sat with me and he said, I want to really do something that impacts people on a national level, to ensure that there's facilities and institutional presence for Shia students and other communities across the country. And I said to him, my brother, I know I'm on my second leg in this dunya, and I'm trying to build as much as I can while Allah has blessed me with breaths to breathe in this world. So whatever you need from me to make sure that what we are doing here is something that can happen everywhere, let's get it done. And I want to share that with you to give you an understanding that what we have here is not something that comes from nothing. You can't expect somebody to build for us what we have to build for ourselves. Nor can we expect that someone is going to grow and nurture and flourish, take care of what it is that we have been entrusted to take care of. And so I know my brother, Fawaz Jafar, is trusting that we're going to do what we're supposed to do while he's getting done the things that he is uniquely able to get done. And that means that when you are asked to support, it's not just that you are asked to support these gatherings and these nights. Because I can tell you, as long as I'm here, we're going to have this program every year as often as we can. But we want to grow it and make it bigger. We want to ensure that it's strengthened and there's that much more of an impact. In the Qur'an, when Allah tells us, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa, quite often we understand this as a steward, a caretaker of the earth, which it is. But you're also khalaf because you're what comes next. My 7-year-old son Kareem, my 10-year-old daughter Medina, they're khalaf to me. They're what comes next. And when we come to commemorate the beauty of the standing of our Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when we recognize the manifestation of what pure beauty can be on a human level, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ, juxtapose what is the epitome of ugliness and wretchedness, ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. The paradoxical nature of us as a human is that we can be both agents of good and agents of what is not good. I'm saying to you that within your history and your legacy and your lineage, you think back to the eldest of the elders that you know, going back centuries, all the way to the moment where the grandson of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam stood on that plain, not in defiance, but with honor and dignity, showing what it means to be somebody who is raised in the madrasa of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not letting anything of this dunya hold him down, but to know that generations upon generations that would come after would be inspired by his sacrifice, his martyrdom. Why did he and everyone in between do what they did? It wasn't so that we could sit here and just be in comfort, or to be in a place where what we've been given, we take it for granted. But we recognize from those who bore witness to something bigger than just themselves. What is it that we are going to be building so that those that sit where you are seated, a generation from now, are going to be thanking you for what it was that you sacrificed for their sake? So where you can support this program, make sure you do. That QR code should be all over everything, if you truly understand what it is that we're trying to do here. There should be no hesitation in us being able to take as many people as we are able to, those who can afford and those who cannot afford, to do ziyarah to Iraq, to walk in the footsteps of the Messenger in Mecca and Medina, with Sheikh Fa'az leading them every step in the way on Umrah and on Hajj, to offer whatever it is that we can in terms of opportunities. Because we're what comes next. And we have to take care of what it is that we've been blessed with to ensure that those who come after, they're going to have it that much better. You know as well as I do that most Muslim spaces that exist in the country, let alone in specific what happens at college campuses, is built to cater only to South Asian Sunni men. That's just truth. We want to shift the paradigm to be able to recognize and understand that diversity is not just a checkbox, but that we benefit when everyone is able to participate unapologetically on their terms. Our community is stronger because of your presence in it. And there's a deep value that we have when you are able to be everything that you are entitled to be. So help us to ensure that this continues, and help us to ensure that we're able to replicate it and build it all over this country and in different parts of the world. Don't let this Muharram pass without you supporting our Shia programming here, and do what you can to spread it to others as well. If you have khums that you need to give, Sheikh Fayaz has gotten permission to take khums, and you can speak to him directly about that. And Sayyid Muhammad would be able to answer questions for you as well if you don't understand the legality of khums and the principles behind it, which is also fine. We all have starting points where we are. Everything that you contribute is tax deductible. It goes to New York University, earmarked only to support our Shia programming and services. And if you are somebody who is seated in this room who is not Shia like me, I would say you have that much more of a role in ensuring that this program gets to every place that it needs to get to. Because the default is in line with our privilege as Sunni Muslims. And we quite often take it for granted. And true allyship and solidarity is not about coming in with a savior complex, but following the lead of those that need to be followed, especially a minority within a minority that does not need our help to be able to further anything that it is that they have going on, but it is our blessing to be able to support our Shia brothers and sisters. So please do give what you can, and give even more than that. And when you go to speak about what it is that we're doing here, speak in the most uplifting of ways. You can think of communities that we can start to engage to help them to build college campuses and otherwise. Let us know. So we're all together able to do things that we couldn't do without each one of us doing our part. And inshallah ta'ala, we will be able to honor the sacrifices of those that came before us and truly embody in the spirit of Hussein what it means to be a person of dignity, beauty, honor, value, and ethics, regardless of who it is and what it is that others might be doing. And this is the last thing that I'll say, but you all know it more than I do. There is nothing that can extinguish that light. And in a world that is filled with so much darkness, it takes just a little bit of light to be able to extinguish it. And so feel replenished and revitalized. Take from these gatherings what you can, and then go out in the world that is in need of that light that can only come from the blessing that is uniquely you, by living as apologetically as you can, based off of what your deen is teaching you, so that we can get done what we have the ability to get done. Barakallahu feekum. May Allah bless you and bless these gatherings, and may He make this a space where each one of you and so many more will continue to feel welcomed and a part of what we're doing here, and never feel as if you have to leave something at the door in order to be a part of this space. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
We'll go ahead and welcome our guest speakers, the three lads of Allah.
Allahumma. I think if I hold it, it doesn't. Should it would be better if I hold it? Just because of the noise. Okay? MashaAllah, beautiful words. Samahat al-Sheikh, Sheikh Khalid. As usual, an inspiration and an example for us all. And I echo his sentiments wholeheartedly. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة ما خاب من تمسك بكم وأمن من لجأ إليكم يا ليتنا ثم يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. Altogether, Assalamu ala al-Husayn wa ala Ali ibn al-Husayn وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين خصوصا سيدي ومولاي كفيل الهواشم قمر بني هاشم أبا الفضل العباس السلام عليكم جميعا يا شهداء كربلاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: وما الحياة الدنيا إلا متاع الغرور. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. A second salawat in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. A third in honor of the Imam of our time with your loudest of voices. Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Ya dunya ghurri ghayri. O life, misguide someone besides me. These were the beautiful words uttered by Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, as recorded in Nahj al-Balagha, an excerpt within a very long yet eloquent, articulate, and beautiful sermon. When we examine the concept of this life, we see it constantly put on the forefront of debates within Islamic theology or eschatology, and it is often lumped into the category of deception. Whenever you talk about this life, the existence that we all experience and go through and eventually meet an end with, you always notice it being compartmentalized within the discussions of deception, temptation, misguidance. It's like it's the worst thing Allah ever created. The reality is, there's a lot of good to this life. Many wonderful people exist. Many beautiful opportunities lay there. And of course, while that is there, we definitely know for a fact, we see left, right, and center the opposite to that. But it doesn't always need to be the case that it is the craziest and worst of the creations by the divine. However, one thing that we cannot deny is there is a lot of deception. Beauty, while it is very attractive, can be extremely deceptive. And many people can say, for example, oh, I have many first-hand experiences to that. We can notice that the Qur'an constantly describes the dunya not as an evil creation, but as a deceptive one. Many of us know what deception means. Many of us have been deceived. Many of us have been bewildered. Many of us know, this is what is called as compounding ignorance, that we're being fooled, but maybe turn a blind eye because the journey is so good. But we know, for example, that the end and the conclusion will be a difficult one. And you look at all of the examples that are in relation to this description, they always end up having a person in an ugly situation. Say, for example, someone goes and parties, entertains a club, or goes and has a long night out drinking. While they enjoy the process, they end up feeling like they're destroyed. They end up with regrets. They end up with a history that they try their hardest to delete, with remorse, with guilt, but the journey was a very pleasurable one. That is why within the Holy Qur'an you see a beautiful ayah, and of course all ayat of Allah are beautiful. زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ. What has been made beautiful to the people is the love of desires. So desires are great if done properly, but they are all attractive irrespective, whether they're good or bad. But there are ways to entertain your desires, be them in any fold, whether it's in the world of food or in the world of any form of intimate desire, in any matter whatsoever. There's always a wrong and a right way to do it. Both of them seem equally attractive. Both of them seem beautiful at the same exact level. But we always notice that the Quranic description, as opposed to the description we often hear or read or study, is a bit different. What we hear or read or study is that the dunya is evil, don't stay attached. Where there is truth to that, the objective reality is the otherwise one. Why? It's the one that involves a form of deception. I remember when studying Buddhist theology, when you look into the journey of the figure known as Siddhartha, and I can say that expand your knowledge, expand your horizons, go look at what other worldviews have to offer. You get some beautiful examples and lessons. You know, the Holy Prophet would say, خُذُوا الْعِلْمَ وَلَوْ مِنْ أَفْوَاهِ الْمَجَانِينَ. Who are you? Take knowledge from even the lips of insane people out there. Don't think you're superior or better or holier than thou, that you won't even benefit from someone that says, at least consider what I have to offer you, let alone scholarship from other worldviews. And I know in this world or discussion, Buddhism, the figure known as Siddhartha, who became the Buddha, he says that I've noticed in life that I see that the main issues with problems is because of desires. And so he lists the desires on a level, a scale. Although one of the most simple of these is perhaps, let's say, physical attraction. Then he might even level, for example, clothing. Then food. The hardest and most difficult, and I'll be very political with my language, was sexual desires. He said if there was a desire stronger than that, I would have failed. But he levels them as such. And so the aim in life is to avoid these desires. You'll avoid being unhappy, because that's life. You chase something, you get there, it's a mirage. Find yourself at a desert, and you're like, finally an oasis. You get close enough, where did it go? That is the most beautiful parable of the dunya. Now we see these desires, honestly, to be very fair with you, these can all be accomplished in a halal manner. But the insan always wants fast food, wants it easy, wants it quickly. Hurry the heck up. We live in a situation and a society where if it's not here the moment I want it, it's almost baby-like, give me it now, then turmoil is right around the corner. That is why the ayah of the Holy Qur'an states, زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ, that shahawat are not evil, but they are beautiful. And I have to admit, this is the reality. When you look at what is depicted as a good way to have fun, you gotta admit sometimes it looks like they're having a great time. But if you pay attention at that mosh pit, it's a very demonic scene. If you look closely at the club, they wake up regretting what happened and they have to clean themselves, and something goes wrong and they lose something later on, and they entertain degeneracy to the highest level possible. Or if you were to ask them, how was last night? You know what they'll say? I can't remember. How was it a good night if you don't remember? I can't remember. What went on? I don't know. But that's a good time to you. You're greater than that. There are ways to entertain what the pleasures of life have to offer. They have been made beautiful, but that is exactly what distinguishes you from the world of the creatures like the animals. The animal has desires, but no hikmah. You have both desires, but wisdom. You know, I can't entertain this right now. I can't, for example, indulge in this. I used to like this when I was little. Now I realize this is not the right way to do it. An animal doesn't think that way. That is exactly what distinguishes you. That is exactly why God says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We have honored the children of Adam, i.e. the human beings. So there are ways to go through. That is why God says in the Holy Quran once again that the hayatul dunya mata'ul ghurur. It is the pleasure of deception. And it's funny. I love that Allah uses this manner to explain what this world is. It is the pleasure of deception. Al-ghurur, deception. Mata', al-istimta', to have a form of enjoyment and pleasure. It is the pleasure of deception. So it's not like you're enjoying, for example, what you want to achieve. You enjoy being deceived. Some people focus so much on the journey, they forget they're going somewhere. You have a goal. Enjoy the journey. It's not saying don't enjoy it, but don't settle for the journey. At the end of the day, you set off for a reason. You have a goal you want to meet. This is a transit. Don't build your house when you're in the middle of flying. Get to where you want it to go ultimately. Once you arrive, that's when you can construct. But you're in a process. Henceforth, the Qur'an then adds, فَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانِ. And surely, afterlife, it's real life. It is the real hayat, the real living that you will endure. This is a transit. This is a journey. And some people have taken the journey to be their final destination. The sadness with that is the deception became the goal. When in reality, you had an objective, the process became the objective all of a sudden. If that's the parameter you live by, then nothing will be accomplished. We don't accept that, for example, in school. I want to enjoy my process going through university, but I want to graduate. I don't want to be a 40-year-old freshman. I want to move on. I want to proceed. And the reality of afterlife is exactly that way compared to this life. And there's a parable that's often cited that there are two babies, unborn babies, having a discussion. They're twins inside their mother's womb. One baby says to the other, "Do you think there's life after birth?" It's like, basically, do you think there's life after, death? The other baby says, "That's not true. There can't be life after birth." Like, why? Because clearly we haven't gone there. No one who's left has ever returned. This is real life, which would be odd if that ever happened, by the way. This is real living. It's like, but hold on. If there isn't life after birth, what's the meaning of all this? This is life. The umbilical cord feeds us. I have company. This is real living. Have you even seen after birth? It's like, no, I haven't. Then why would you even assume it exists? But it makes sense to me. Do you, by the way, the other baby replies, believe in mother? It's like the object of God. Do you believe in mother? Like, mother? Have you seen mother? No, I haven't. Do you really think that there is this very intelligent design and creator that made both me and you and is constantly giving us without you ever seeing it? You're a fool. And there's twins are having this debate all of a sudden. The baby says, I can't help but think that maybe there is something. And if you stay quiet and pay attention, maybe mother does exist. But if you really reflect, you can even hear her sweet voice telling you, I love you. It's a matter of time. And you don't want to stay here forever. Enjoy it, although it doesn't seem like baby one is enjoying his company with baby two. Enjoy it, but move on. The hadith, narrated by Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, says that moving on to the next life is as dramatic as being born and you were in the life of the womb. Because we have stages of life. There's alam al-dhar, the realm of particles and spirits. Before we were created, Allah created our soul. Then there's something called alam al-arham, the realm of the womb. Indeed, the womb is a realm. The womb of our mothers was an existence that we lived within. Yes, it's within this dunya, but it was a realm that we had to go through. Subsequent to the realm of the spirits. Then the realm of the dunya came through. The dramatic difference between the womb, think for a second. Once there was a moment we believed that was it. You're a child, you don't think anything, especially if you're in the embryonic stages. What do you think? But for a moment, imagine if you were given some of that intellect, because you did have consciousness, and it does exist. When you had that consciousness, even if it was such a minor manner or in a minor form, that imagine if you said, I don't believe in afterbirth, this is it, I get free food, I'm here, I'm chill, it's fine, it's comfortable. Then when you compare the life of the womb to this life, like, no way, Jose, this is different. There are trees and planets beyond this one and company. The akhirah will be parallel and proportionate in difference like the womb was to this dunya, according to the sixth Imam of Ahlul Bayt. Can you even process that? Imagine if that's all you ever knew. Just this cold, dark, bloody, crazy life that you call the world of the womb. Who could have convinced you that there's something beyond that like this dunya? With the wonderful company in front of you, hopefully the wonderful speaker in front of you as well, with the beautiful family that we share, the ups and downs that it has, you can never even perceive that. The afterlife, وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانِ. It's the real existence coming for you. What goes back is that the statement of the Qur'an has been completely true from the dawn of time. What you saw was purely deception. You can bypass that deception. But I looked into the statement of Amir al-Mu'mineen and I saw him say, Ya dunya ghurri ghayri. Oh life, misguide someone else. Because I've seen your reality. I know your true essence. It is a temporary abode, but it's not going to misguide me. What can misguide me are the adornments of the pleasures of this dunya. So I see pleasures in life, and I can tell it looks really good. But what makes me different and upright is the fact that when I can do my haram, I avoid it. That then raises my status in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the difference between the human, we went from animal to human, now to the angel world, the angelic world. The difference between the humans and the angels is that the angels, while they are infallible, are less significant spiritually than the insan. How? Because the angels never sin effortlessly. Whereas we need to put effort to avoid disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah values effort. Allah takes into consideration, not my words, وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى. And whoever does an Adam's weight of good, wallah, by Allah, Allah sees it. God witnesses it. And God takes it into consideration. But the reality is, we will still see these adornments and need to stay away from them. One man asked, Al-Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq, alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, Ya ibn Rasulillah, O son of the Messenger of God, can you sin? Is it something possible? Is it something you can do as a member of the Ahlul Bayt? The Imam replied, you think I cannot sin? He's like, yeah, I don't know if you can or cannot. You Ahlul Bayt are different level, which I can appreciate because many wonder, are the Ahlul Bayt just bound to never sin? Are they sinless with the essence of their creation? The Imam replied, no, I can. What's stopping me from taking the odd drink or saying the odd thing or doing the odd act that is in disobedience to Allah? I can sin. The man said, but you need to explain this to me. Because you never do, it seems like you're just programmed that way. The Imam said, follow me. He took the man to a butcher shop. Like you see some of these delis over here. So I'm bringing our examples because in Michigan I don't see these enough. But you see these delis, there are clean ones and then there are really not so clean ones. The Imam took the man to what you could say was probably not the cleanest deli or not the cleanest butcher shop. And he asked the butcher, do you have the leftover scraps of meat that you guys discard? Is it somewhere here? The butcher said, yeah, we do. But why do you care? He replied, let's just go see it. So he said, it's in the back. You know, there are scraps of meat people don't eat. I don't know, let's say like the tail, I don't know. It's just stored in the back. It's really gross. The Imam brought the man. He says, you look at that pile of leftover, rotten scraps of meat people don't even want to eat, and now it's rotten. Would you ever, now ask yourself this, put yourself in this situation. But the Imam asks you, he says it to the man, would you ever eat it? The man said, no way. The Imam replied, would you even ever think about eating it? The man said, I will not eat it, nor will I even think about eating it. The Imam replied, exactly sins, we don't do them, nor do we even think about doing them. Why? Because I see a sin like I see this dirty pile of leftover rancid meat. The day you can interpret a sin as something disgusting, abhorrent, gross, is the day you've managed to master crossing over the deception of the dunya. Because when I see most haram, I got to admit, it might be tempting. Whatever that dish that they bring in front of me, yeah, it could be made from haram meat, but it looks really nice. Or yeah, that odd smoke, I see everyone talking about it. I got to admit, it might be appealing to the youth that says, I'm struggling with some things. And they all say it brings you some calmness. And they all say it makes you feel good. All of these do have an attraction to them. But if the day I manage to make them see them, interpret them as gross, that is the day your deception has failed with me. Ya dunya ghurri ghayri. O life, misguide someone else. The Imam then continues, لَقَدْ طَلَّقْتُكِ ثَلَاثًا لَا رَجْعَةُ فِيهَا أَبَدًا. I've divorced you 3 times. And of course in Islamic fiqh, a third divorce is the end all and be all. Strike 3, you're out. You can't return back. I've divorced you 3 times. Go and misguide someone else. There are people that have accomplished a level of spirituality, I have to admit, where they see every sin as something disgusting. They are virtually sinless. Because to me, That odd drink where it looks refreshing and nice and cool and your advertisements can come out all over, if I see it as actually a disobedience to Allah rather than a drink that can make me feel a certain way, even though it's a misguidance, don't be fooled. It'll ultimately, Allah hasn't made anything haram, except if it was for your benefit. Allah hasn't made anything allowed, except that it doesn't have an impediment for you. Allah looks out for your interest. Drinking, do I need to explain why it's haram? Eating certain foods out there that Allah ethically makes it clear is not good for the insan to eat. They have effects on me, spiritual ramifications on me. Even eating that which is halal, but it wasn't prepared in a halal way. I'll give a quick example just off this topic. They did a study at the University of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. I forget which year, I gotta be honest with you. But where the study was published comparing halal versus non-halal food. And so they looked into, just by a clear observation, and I don't need to bring a study for this, just ask yourself, be objective please. How would you rather have, and I think after this discussion, many people are going to turn to veganism or vegetarianism very soon. How would you rather have your food prepared for you, knowing that what you are eating endured the most pain and suffering before it was slaughtered? Look at the factory farming and industrial farming. Doesn't care, couldn't care, has no fraction of humanity in mind. Whether it's by captive bolt or electric shock or compression of a sort, a mass compression, and these things are just not even taken into consideration. Whereas, and I'll be very careful with my description, the Islamic manner of taking into consideration before you eat something, thank Allah, make sure that the conditions are all met, be them from the fact that the animal must not be ill, must not be nursing, must not be put in that situation in front of its other animals. If it has animals depending on it, you do not. There are many factors taken into consideration. And then in addition to the fact that whatever will be used as the main tool must be completely sharp, has to not have any bluntness such that it doesn't experience excruciating pain, for example, must not see it in the whole entire process. By the end of it, you have a situation where the University of Amsterdam in Netherlands, they conducted research on pain tolerance, where they put on a few devices, compared it to the manner in the West, typically how animals are prepared, versus how an Islamic manner with dhabiha is prepared. They looked at the spike of pain tolerance. You can measure it. They looked into first the typical factory industrial farming. The moment the animal went through the slaughter, the spike peaked. It experienced so much of that pain before it died. Then they put the same measurements on the animal done through the Islamic method. The degree of spike on the pain level was equivalent to that of a paper cut. How and why? The animal beforehand obviously doesn't know what's going on, doesn't see it, because it has to be covered. It doesn't see what is going to be used. The area where the jugulars are has most of the blood run through it. So the animal faints because of blood loss. When it faints, it doesn't feel any pain. After, then the completion and the slaughtering is done. So the pain equivalent is that of a paper cut. The animal doesn't go through any of that pain. Of course, hormones are released, defense hormones, when the animal is in a fright mode as well. These things ethically are not taken into consideration, because who cares about another animal? I'm just going to eat you. No, you are not a perfect religion unless you take everything in life into consideration, even the rights of animals. 2017, I did a lecture. No, not 17, it was COVID time, so 2019 maybe. I did a lecture in Muharram, animal rights. And I got these interesting emails in return. I spent a whole lecture on the rights of animals. Yeah, I'm Muslim. I care. We all care. And it wasn't other than our beloved Imam Al-Hussein, salamullah alayh, who I recall very clearly, and you do as well. When you recite the maqtal, and we will get to it by the way, inshallah, you notice there was a moment in his epic saga, those 12 hours, where he actually reaches the Furat, the Euphrates. He's on his horse, Dhul Janah. He gets to the Euphrates, he gets off the horse, salamullahi alayh, and he reaches, he's about to drink, he looks at his horse and says the following line. Look into the maqtal of Abi Mikhnaf. He says, Anta atshan wa ana atshan, fala ashrab hatta tashrab. You're thirsty, but I'm also thirsty. I won't drink until you drink. And the animal, the horse, raised his head as if it understood what the Imam was saying. You care for the makhlooq before you care for yourself. من لم يرحم المخلوق لم يرحمه الخالق. Whoever doesn't show mercy to the created, the creator won't show mercy to you. I am a Muslim. You are Muslim, inshaAllah, by the meaning of being a very thoughtful creature of Allah, that you care about the other creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If not, then you need to do some introspection and some reflection, because the deception of the dunya took you over. One man by the name of Al-A'sha, this guy was from Yemen. He heard about the message of Islam. He's like, boy, I think this is a great message. He wanted to convert in the life of the Prophet. You know, I always think of the story and I always think about meeting a celebrity, because he heard about this Prophet of God. And he's in Yemen, the Prophet is in Medina. It's just a journey, and I can see the messenger of God, for goodness sake. So Al-A'sha was about to travel. His buddy came. Oh man, on these buddies sometimes. They can really prevent you from seeing a renaissance of change. He's like, where do you think you're going? It's like when shaitan takes a break, his friend steps in. By the way, this is real. There are people, Allah says in the Qur'an, shayateen al-jinni wal-ins. There are shaitans in the form of jinn. We know shaitan is always in that form. We don't hear him, we don't see him. But he misguides you with that waswasa and inclination to do wrong. That's pretty bad. But what's worse is when the insan comes and does his job. Shayateen al-insi wal-jinn. The insan, what do you think you're doing? He's like, yeah, while Shay took a break, I'm going to fill his place. Because the shaitan, I don't see him when he tries to misguide me. But my buddy, I have no reason to assume he wants the worst for me. Because it's always done on innocence. Or we're just hanging out innocently. We're just going to sit together innocently. We're going to be at this haram gathering. We're not doing it, but we're sitting there innocently. We're going to have bad company, but I'm not doing anything. They're just with us innocently. Then they invited us back to their place innocently. Then we innocently just disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it was all done no. The shaitan, when he does his waswasa to you, you're like, get out of my way, and he just goes away. But the boy or girl that's in front of you grabs you and says, let's go. Literally, what do you do in that situation? This guy, Al-A'sha, had this man come and say to him, where do you think you're going? And he's like, I'm going to become a Muslim. By the hands of Rasulullah. What an honor, by the way. I will never know what it's like to embrace Islam, having been honored to be born in Islam. But Allah says, for those that have entered Islam, after not being born a Muslim, they receive the ajr double than the one that was born. Why? Because who would have said that if you were born a non-Muslim, you would have then embraced Islam? Maybe the way you're born a Muslim was the only way you would have became Muslim. Be thankful. Henceforth, the one that embraces Islam in their life, Allah gives them double. You did the work. That's why I am pretty sympathetic to those who actually call themselves atheists. Why? You are halfway through, boy. You're halfway through. You said, La ilaha. Just need illallah. Really, you're almost done. You did the research. My buddy, he's Muslim, but he could be anything else for all I care. Salah time is PS5 time. Masjid time is when can we finish and go home so we can go back to PS5 time. But then I'm looking at some of these introspective individuals and things like, I really want to find a God. I came to a conclusion, right now I'm not too confident. Yeah, la ilaha, let's go and find, why not? You know, when you read Richard Dawkins' The God Delusion, that man, we talked about shayateen al-ins, right? Human shaitans. Exhibit A. That man, he sells his book, A God Delusion. So I was interested in reading it. I don't want to buy it and support him though. So where can I find it? I did some research. I found it. But guess what? In his website, he has it available only for free in one language. Can you guess which language? Arabic. He's like, I'm going to have a target audience right in the heart of the Islamic world. You guys all have to pay for it if you can speak English, but them for free. So I read it in the Arabic. His main, well, yeah. So I didn't want to support him, so give me the free one, no problem. His main focus was the God of Christianity, not the God that is proposed in the objective notion of what it means to have a benevolent, omnipotent God from the Islamic perspective, I have to say. So the Judeo-Christian perspective of what it means to have a deity, that how can God die on a cross? How can God see evil? Of course, the whole traditional problem of evil, dilemma, and quarry. How can God not stop certain evil? But in a Judeo-Christian spirit, well, of course, I have the same issues. How can God die on a cross? How can God see and be complacent? But I would agree with you. But the thing is, you went after one direction. Let's seriously talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In any case, this man, Al-A'sha, wants to become a Muslim. And he wants to go to the Prophet and give bay'ah straight to the Holy Prophet. And I hear this and I get goosebumps. I really do, because it's like, imagine meeting Rasulullah and I want to embrace Islam. Sometimes, Allah's so good. Allah gives us that opportunity in Hajj. Every Hajj, if you go to Hajj and you grab Hajar al-Aswad, the black stone, and you put your hand on it with your right hand, the thawab, or the good deeds that you receive, are equivalent to adil bay'a ma'a Rasulillah, are equivalent to as if you gave allegiance to Rasulullah. So it's still an opportunity in the form proportionate of the ajr that you would have received had you actually grabbed and said, Ya Rasulullah, bay'atuka fillah, and I want to become Muslim to you today. You can still experience the ajr of that. But this man's like, I can do this right now. He's like, why do you want to become Muslim? Because I think it's a great way to live. He's like, but in Islam, his religion, men and women are actually seen the same on the eyes of God. He's like, I agree. Okay, hold on, but in that religion, Day of Judgment is a thing, and people are going to be held accountable for what they did. It's like, yeah, people should be held accountable. Imagine someone who oppressed others and just dies a normal, beautiful, natural, nice, happy, vacation-esque death, as they purport, for example, that maniac in 1945 who killed 6 million people, as the traditional narrative is that he took his own life away, and that was it. So there's no held account. That's the world of, I have to admit, the world of a non-believer of God, not Muslim. It's the atheist. This life, you wake up, it's one big circus, you die, lights out. Who's going to be held accountable? At least does that not give you a solace, knowing that, yeah, you oppressed me, but there's going to be a day I will stand in front of the big judge. Because I have problems, but I'm not telling him how big the problems are. I'm telling them how big my God is. In any case, he's like, yeah, all these things I agree, bro. What do you want? He's like, here's the thing though. He has made forbidden the consumption of alcohol. This is where Al-A'sha was like, are you serious? Because everything else I understand, but he was an alcoholic. He was a serial alcoholic, apparently, according to the traditions. He's like, can you confirm that? He's like, yeah. Alcohol's haram in his religion. And of course his buddy's thinking, I got him. Because that's the truth. Islam. In regards to khamr, the khamr is a rijsun min amal al-shaytan. That alcohol is a defilement from the works of shaitan. He's like, are you serious that he made alcohol? I was like, yeah, he did. He's like, so what do I do then? He's like, I have a proposal. You want to become Muslim? I'm your friend. Look how the shaitan works. I'm your friend. I want the best for you. I see that you really want to become Muslim. I say be Muslim, just not now. What do? Spend a whole year doing what? Drink as much as you can. Drink from that sparkly, bubbly champagne and whiskey. Drink it all. Enjoy, indulge. I want you not to wake up for 3 days from the hangover from how much you drink. And then after a year, exactly this day, 1 year from now, go become Muslim and you can stop drinking. It's like it's the funniest thing ever. I was in Minnesota last Arba'in. I just put them on the spot now because the following is a very interesting moment. There was a brother that converted. He came up to me and said, Sayyid, now I'd like to embrace Islam. I've been attending Arba'in. And it was Ramadan, yeah. It was Ramadan, not Arba'in. So I've been attending, I enjoyed the lectures. I want to become Muslim, but I hear Friday is a good day in Islam. So I want to choose Friday. What day was it? Monday. So our friends were like, his name is Eli. before Friday comes, go to McDonald's, go to Arby's, eat as much haram as you could. I'm like, guys, you lost the point. The guy's attracted to Islam because he dislikes what is haram. He's like, no, Eli, have as much as you can, then become Muslim. It was an odd moment. The same principle that this guy is saying. He's like, drink as much as you can. What are some brands? This is how far away I am from that world. Drink as much, I don't want to say their nasty names. Drink as much alcohol. He spends a whole year, he drinks. After a year is done, he's lost it, by the way, from how much he's drinking. He's like, now I'm going to, it's probably wobbly, now I'm going to embrace Islam. Heads out, watch this, leaves from Yemen, goes halfway through, Al-Ahsha became ill. He's like, I could still push. He gets closer and closer to Medina al-Munawwara. I'm almost there, I'm going to become Muslim. He becomes very frail and tired. What do you think happened? He died before he became Muslim. He spent that whole year drinking. God revealed ayat about him. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَيَوْمَ يَعَضُّ الظَّالِمُ عَلَى يَدَيْهِ يَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي اتَّخَذْتُ مَعَ الرَّسُولِ سَبِيلًا يَا وَيْلَتَى ليتني لم اتخذ فلانا خليلا لقد أضلني عن الذكر بعد إذ جاءني وكان الشيطان للإنسان خذولا. That the day will come on the day of judgment where the one who's oppressed himself, i.e. al-Ahsha, and it's a general principle for any one of us here, will be biting their hand. Have your parents ever bit their hands in front of you to express that they're mad at you? It's like, sit the heck down, biting hand. Stop running, but there's guests, so they can't really yell at you, so they go like this. Now, sit down, don't move, stop yelling, stop whatever. It's a very scary sight because it looks like they want to eat you all of a sudden or something like that. The one who's oppressed himself on the day of judgment, Al-Ahsha, God is talking about what he will do in the future, which is a beautiful observation, will be biting his hand, and then what he will say, he'll be like, Ya laytani ittakhadhtu ma'a ar-rasuli sabila. How I wish I took the path of the Prophet earlier. Ya waylata, a woe be to me. Laytani, how I wish for goodness sake, lam ittakhadh fulanan khalila. How I wish I didn't take that guy as my friend. That guy misguided me. Woe unto me, ya waylata. Look at these descriptions here. Very beautiful observations. This guy misguided me. I wish I took the path of the Prophet sooner. لَقَدْ أَضَلَّنِي عَنِ الذِّكْرِ. He misguided me after the dhikr and the remembrance of Allah came to me. And shaitan is always misguiding people. And then he blamed shaitan. The beautiful thing is he blamed shayateen al-insi, then he blamed the shayateen of al-jinn as well. He's a shaitan, and that shaitan, they all misguide people. He mentions this as an expression of the way he feels because he had a friend that misguided him. This is exactly the parallel and parable of this dunya, my dear respected brothers and sisters, where you see many cases that seem like they are opportunities, but it's not going to ever be a solid sell or a solid deal. Make the effort now. Don't wait. Because can you ever guarantee that that door will stay open? It's open now. Why wait until Friday? Why wait until a year? Just take the opportunity. Opportunities come like the clouds, as Jesus, son of Mary, would say. Jesus, son of Mary, has a beautiful line in actually the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Gospels, that the opportunities come like clouds. Seize them while they are here. Because when they're here, you can take advantage of them. You can see the blessings of the rain. But if you don't take advantage of them, they will leave you. And the interesting thing is, and the Qur'an uses the same exact example, by the way, marra as-sihab, the passing of the clouds. It's a very adept example. Why? Because a cloud, when it's around you, you can benefit from it if you take advantage of the rain, of its time, of its shade, for example. But when it leaves you, the beautiful thing is it's gone, but you can still see it. So you're always given a reminder of what could have been. Take the advantage now. Doors open, don't wait. This whole I'm not ready yet. You know where I'm going with this, by the way. I'm not ready yet. It's not now. This one I always find fascinating. And I'd love your discussions if you can ever speak to me about this. I'd love to learn more. It's not like I am here giving what I think is knowledge. I am here just to share what I think has helped me. But we're all on the same boat, for goodness sake. I've always thought that this was a fascinating line. I'm not ready yet. I am not religious yet. Why is it the case you will not yet embrace, speaking to myself before you guys watch this, why won't you embrace, for example, Islamic attire? You're a Muslim, right? You love God? Yeah. You love truth? Yeah. So if you love God, you love truth, you hate the opposite of God, and you hate the opposite of truth, and that's falsehood and injustice. Because I'm not ready yet. Why not? I don't know if when I do this, I will greatly appreciate it. And I can actually appreciate that reply. Because it's not saying I don't understand that it's worth it. I don't accept that it's worth it. Be it the hijab, be it praying, be it being a decent person, be it being someone that understands the roles of each person in life, that is not my family, that is a member of the opposite gender, for example. Maybe I should stop treating them like my own wife or husband, for goodness sake. Why am I not taking these into consideration? Because I'm not religious enough yet. It's a struggle of life. No one is saying become a prophet of God before you embrace some values that already make up your identity. When you say you're a Muslim, you know by default these principles, they come with a full baggage already. The whole world sees you and generalizes you anyways. The fact that they begin to hear your name is, let's say, Zahra or Muhammad, or on one incident or an occasion, you were with a group of other clear Muslims, you're already lumped in that world of Muslim, Islam, religious to religious, for example. I remember I was praying, and it was at a school event, so I stayed after school, and I began to pray. School is not somewhere you always associate prayer with, you associate like hooliganism with. But I began to pray, because it was time for Salah. And usually when you're younger, Salah might happen in school, you wait to get to home, and then pray, no big deal. But I had a school after school event, so I was like praying right there. The amount of times I was called so religious just for praying, which is an elementary thing you would imagine, I'm just doing the bare bone minimum, was very bizarre. Because when doing the bare bone minimum becomes extreme, that's a society that has lost the mark. It's a society that sees if praying on time, just praying, just general praying, I'm not praying extra, I'm doing my wajib that I'm afraid I'm going to miss later. If that is deemed too religious, then what is deemed okay is simply something nonsensical. What's okay to you in that case? What is considered religious or not religious? Because I have this feud with the term religious. Because to pose the term religious is to suggest that there is a degree of religiosity. I know for a fact that I can see a sister who might walk into the center, who may not necessarily be in the complete attire, but might have the greatest iman in Allah that you have never seen anyone compared to like she does, but she is going through a process. Opposite to the judgmental perspective of who does she think she is? Why is she bothering to come here? Buddy, Allah will question you more than her on the day of judgment. At least she's trying. That mentality of judgmentalism, it's not for you to say. It's not for you to carry. There is only one Maliki Yawmiddin. Who are you? You're not Maliki Yawmiddin. The process, I remember listening to a brother saying that there was a convention where they invited people to speak. One of the people, again, a sister example. The thing is with the sisters, right? Before I cause a feud maybe, is that you can immediately tell Muslim, done. With the brothers, it's like maybe not so clear, but you know, no, I mean it, like just by observation, let's say, just look, until he starts opening his mouth and he goes, Ya Allah, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Ya Adil. You know, for example, okay, there we go. But the girl that went up to the stage just to say a few words, it was just a YouTube video, so just take with what it means. He's like, I was so mad at her. Her job was all over the place. She gets up, and I'm like, who does she think she is? She's going to start speaking, telling us about God. And then she says, today I decide to embrace Islam. The girl was converting, and the man has already judged her 1,000 times. He's like, I felt so guilty. You don't know what's going on in people's lives. Habibi, I'll say this. It's difficult to say Wallah. You know, don't use God's name in vain. But Wallah, you're not the main character. The world does not revolve around you. Everyone has a story. Everyone is going through something. People have their own issues. People simply don't know. People are working, even with this mindset of not right now. It comes with good intention, although I don't advocate for it. Like we said earlier, then when? I heard this one once. Not right now when I go to Hajj. Yeah, but Hajj now, you know how difficult it is? Pre this whole system of now you have to do a lottery where you have to put your name, hope they get it. Well, that's gone now. When you're never going to now embrace some of your Islamic identities and values, opportunities come like the clouds. The sad reality is when the clouds leave, you can still see them and you're like, dang it bothers me. What could have been? Or it's like you're here in New York, the stock exchange is right there. So many people invest. There was this whole craze about investing during the pandemic, some, cryptocurrencies and coins. Like if you had invested $100, by next June you would have been a trillionaire. It's like, okay, what could have been, I didn't know. So don't hold yourself too accountable with it. Let that go. Think about it now. I'm going to be very ashamed to mention the following quote, but it is a good quote. There's a wise saying that don't worry too much about the future, because the future is a mystery. And the past is history. But today is a gift. That is why it is called present. Master Oogway Kung Fu Panda. Honestly, there's a lot of good wisdom in that one there. I gotta give credit where credit is due. The past is gone, fine. The future, don't even worry about it. Right now, it's a little gift. Enjoy the moment. Enjoy it, but take advantage of it. Indeed, you don't know what's happening. But the thing is that you can really make certain is the following, that there's an end to it. And there's another interesting, I'm quoting really interesting sources now. This is a political source, by the way. There are only two things in life guaranteed, tax and death. Taxes and death. Yeah, I can give taxes. Well, to be honest, you can do a loophole here and there, Cayman Islands, etc. Whatever. I know this because of this Sayed right here, that guy right there. Yeah. I'm joking. No, I love you. But in any case, death is the only certain, right? The only certainty, the only reality, the only thing I can guarantee. I can't guarantee eventually, or next Hajj, or when I feel more religious, because I know the truth. And the opportunities come like the way the clouds come and they go. When they go, it stings because I can still see it. I see what could have been. Don't worry about that too much. Ask yourself now, what does God want from me? Allah doesn't want from me because it makes God feel better. God doesn't need my prayers at the end of the day. But I need His prayers. Because God, and I say His prayers, because what does God say? Inna Allah وَمَلَائِكَتُهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِي. Now the prayers yusalluna are translated as Allah elevating, because salah is worship, right? But worship is not only exclusive to 5 times a day, it's a form of ibadah and worship and elevation and status. That's why salah is called mi'raj as well. As-salatu mi'raj al-mu'min. That prayer is the elevation of the believer. Inna Allah وَمَلَائِكَتُهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِي يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا صَلُّوا عَلَيْهِ وَسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. Allah. God and the angels send their salutations and ask to raise, with the exception of God doesn't ask, God just does, the status of the Holy Prophet and Messenger of God. All those who believe, do the same as such and send your salams and salutations and obedience to the Holy Messenger of God. A man asked Al-Allam Al-Hilli. Al-Allam Al-Hilli was a scholar, an erudite scholar, a pillar of a scholar from the school of Ahlul Bayt. He said to him, I know the followers in the Shia, they always say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The Qur'an doesn't say wa ali Muhammad though. It says Inna Allah wa malaikatuhu yusalluna ala nabi, that's it. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi. Where did you get wa ali Muhammad? So keep reading the Qur'an. الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم. That those who fall upon tragedy in their life, they are the ones who say, to God we came and to God we shall return. Upon them are the salawat of God. Is there a family in this life, brothers and sisters, who's seen tragedy like the family of Rasulullah? Therefore God sends His salawat to them as well. أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم, because of the fact لا يوم كيومك يا أبا عبد الله. There is no day like your day, Ya Hussein. Your day is unique and distinct. Because your day is the one that is incomparable to any other day, you've seen what no eye can handle seeing. And you felt what no figure can ever handle feeling. But you remained on your principles, Ya Sayyid al-Shuhada. Therefore, upon you and your family and your children, as we started, As-salamu ala al-Husayn, wa ala Ali ibn al-Husayn, wa ala awlad al-Husayn, wa ala ashab al-Husayn, because of the fact that they endured so much, but they stayed on their principles. And I mention this, and I say that they saw the deception of the dunya, and like their father, Ali ibn Abi Talib, said, Ya dunya ghurri ghayri, misguide someone else. Because the pleasures of life came to their adversaries before it came to them. We look at some of the figures that fought Ahlul Bayt. You look at Umar ibn Sa'ad, he was promised what is called Mulk al-Ray, the land of al-Ray, which is now still currently around Tehran in Iran. It's a beautiful plot of land, by the way. It's not a plot, beautiful province of land. That was promised to him. Get the blood of Hussein. Shimr was promised 6 million dinar. A dinar is 1 gold coin. A dirham is silver. A dinar is equivalent to 10 darahim. So he was promised 6 million. That's a lot, by the way. That's like saying, here, would you like the lottery? Just take the blood of the family of the Prophet of Islam. One man was given riches, but like this dunya and like the mirage we see, it is wallah pure deception. They thought that the process became their goal. I want salvation. Salvation comes from Allah. You took your salvation from the process of getting to Allah, and as a result you were misguided and deviated. But there's a lady who saw the deception of the dunya and spoke out, by the name of Hind bint Abdullah bin Amir. She was the wife of Yazid bin Muawiyah. Interesting dynamic, by the way. She was rather, one might even say, upright. And you have this in households where you have maybe a member, a bad tree, but one good apple. She noticed that there was a group of men and women brought captive, primarily women and children, with a number of men. And she asked Yazid and many of the guards, can you explain who these people are? The response came back, these are captives from the Hijaz Peninsula. Nothing more, nothing less. From the Arabian Peninsula. It struck her and it raised her eyebrows. She said, can I ask you where? The guards replied, they're from the land of Medina. They're rebels, by the way. That's how you justify killing the family of the Prophet. You have to first make them Khawarij. You got to get them out of the deen. They're rebellious people. But she said, you know, the land of Medina is a place that I love. My Prophet is there, and I was raised there, and I served many people as a servant and a maid in that region. I actually want to see them now. They said to her, you are the princess, you are the queen, you are the wife of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Who do you think they are for you to see them, for them to have an audience with you? She's like, nonetheless, because of the land of Medina, I need to see them. She goes into the cellar where Zayn al-Abidin, Sukayna, Ruqayya, Zaynab, Kulthum, and all the women folk of Imam al-Hussein are held. Disheveled and tired. That journey from Karbala, Kufa, Sham is not an easy one. Many of us have walked Najaf and Karbala, and we were tired. Imagine Najaf, Karbala, and Kufa, after seeing what no eye can handle seeing. And she went and looked, Hind, the wife of Yazid, and she saw who can she ask and talk to. She saw one lady that stood out from among all of them, that while everyone else was tired and back-bent and hurt, she managed to maintain herself with a rigor and a strength that despite the wounds around her, she stood upright with a degree of gravitas unlike any other. And she sat by her, and she said to her, out of the love of Medina al-Munawwira, I'm going to sit on the floor right next to you. You are from Medina? She replied back, we are all from the city of Medina. She says, I have a number of questions to ask about a number of people from Medina. I used to serve as a maid and housewife to a house that was a house of nobility. I want to know if you know anything about them. She replied, which house are you referring to? And so Hind, the wife of Yazid, asked, I want to ask you about the house of Ali ibn Abi Talib. When I was living in Medina, I would often serve, but wallah, I wasn't treated like a maid. They treated me like one of them. And I remember there were a few members of that house. They always remained in my heart, and I would always think and pray for them. But life takes us different places, and I don't know what happened with them. She began to ask her, can I ask you about the young Abbas? I remember when he was a boy, how he would serve his father and mother. What happened to Abul Fadl al-Abbas? Sayyida Zainab replied, Abul Fadl al-Abbas, if you ask me, when you go outside by the gate of this town, you will see a long spear. On that spear by the gate is Abul Fadl al-Abbas. This is what happened to him. She then asked her with tears coming down her face, can I ask you about another member of the house? Can I ask you about Hussein bin Ali? What happened to Hussein? I remember him when he was home, how he would love his father and siblings. What happened to Hussein? She would say, if you look by the spear next to Abbas, that is the head of Hussein. She began crying, and this time she asked, can I ask you about one more person? Where is Zainab al-Hashemiyya? What happened to Zainab of Bani Hashim? Sayyida Zainab replied, she doesn't know it's her, from what Karbala did to her. Subhanallah. She said to her, if you ask me about Zainab al-Hashemiyya, then I don't know where she is. But if you ask me about Zainab al-Masbiyya, Zainab the captive, you are looking right into her eyes. Hind, the wife of Yazid, stood up. She began to scream and cry, running back to Yazid. As he's lavishing on his throne, the Musannaf of Ibn Mukhnaf says the following, that Hind, she was running to yell at him. Her hijab began to fall. Yazid, with all audacity, began to yell and reprimand her. He would say to her, watch out, your hijab is falling. She said, how dare you? How dare you? You ask me about my hijab. What about the hijab of the daughters of Rasulullah? What about the hijab of the daughter of Amir al-Mu'mineen? Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين فرج عنا يا Allah. Oh Allah, we ask you, Allahumma nas'aluka wa nad'uk, and we pray to you with your blessed name. Brothers and sisters, all together, let us recite the ayat of أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَ. These are the ayat of the Qur'an that beseech Allah to help all those who are unwell, muftarreen, in a state of difficulty. Many have reached out and said, pray for us, remember us. Many are ill and not well. We all have members of our home and family and loved ones. Let us recite and dedicate these all together 5 times so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, insha'Allah, with the barakah of this majlis, will answer our du'as all together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَا وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. All together. أَمَّنْ مضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ المضطر إذا دعاه. أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. اللهم اكشف السوء والبلاء عنا يا الله. اللهم المرضى المنظورين شافي وعافهم يا الله. اللهم اقضي حاجاتنا فرج عنا. اللهم, Allah, we ask you to heal all those who are sick. Oh Allah, we ask you to grant us our hajat and our desires, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask you to grant us ziyarah of Abi Abdullah in this dunya and his shafa'ah in the akhirah. Oh Allah, we ask you, on behalf of all those who asked and requested, O Allah, heal all of our sick ones and bless all of our marhumeen, and to the ulama and the shuhada and all those who have made the request. Rahim Allah min qara Surat Al-Fatiha. But before it, the loudest of your salawat. Allahumma Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ma'tam al-Hussein, Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein.